The red ball drills were designed to focus on process. Why does process matter? Because if you don't discuss process, if you don't look at your organizational culture and how things would play out in any given situation, then you're missing a large component of being able to create better policy and procedure. So the red ball drills focus on process, whether it's for an active shooter event, a bullying event, or in this case, a sexual harassment event. When we were running a red ball drill at a corporate headquarters, the risk manager approached me while we were running red ball drills and said, would you mind running a scenario on sexual harassment? Could the red ball represent sexual harassment? And I said, I don't know. We've never tried it before. And I walked up to a female receptionist who was working in the lobby. And I pulled the ball, and she saw the ball and had gotten the memo saying, hey, the red ball, if you see it, means that you're about to have a conversation about a crisis event. I said, here's your scenario. You're working at your desk, working on your computer, and your boss comes up behind you, and while you're working, he starts to massage your shoulders. And she goes, ooh. And I go, right, but creep factor of 2, not of 9, right? So are you reporting it out of curiosity? And she goes, no. I'm like, really? And she goes, no, maybe I misunderstood. Maybe he's mistaken. We've heard these excuses a lot. And I said, all right, well, how many times does he have to do it before you would report it? And she goes, I don't know, 3. And I'm like, all right, how are you reporting it? And she stops. She goes, I'm not sure. And I'm like, what about HR? Could you report it to HR? And she goes, not really. I could, but I don't know anybody in HR. They live in a different building. So I've never really met our HR reps before. I'm like, that's interesting. Well, if you're not reporting it to them, what could you do? And she goes, I'm not really sure. Now, part of our site familiarization, I already knew options that she had from that respect. So I said, well, what about your employee assistance program? Your EAP has an anonymous reporting system that allows you to call in a claim of sexual harassment. She goes, right, I remember that. They told me about that when I was onboarded 6 years ago. And I said, so there's no reminder, there's no update? She goes, no. And I'm like, well, for something like this that's sensitive, are you comfortable calling that anonymous reporting system, even now that you know about it? She goes, I don't really know what happens. And I go, well, let's call. Process, right? Let's call and find out what happens. So we called, and it was a third-party reporting system. And I said, if I'm calling to report sexual harassment, what happens? And she goes, well, I would assign you a case number so that we never use your name. I would take a report from you on what happened and get a full description. I would ask you if you needed any further counseling or a connection to, counseling or therapy. And then that information goes to the designated person who's been assigned to this third-party anonymous reporting system. It's somebody from your company who's been designated as the point of contact. And I'm like, interesting. That's fantastic. I appreciate that. We hang up, and I turn to the receptionist. I'm like, now do you feel more comfortable? She goes, yeah, this changes everything. She's like, if they would have reminders about our EAP, our employee assistance program, and tell us that, we have this opportunity and remind us like once a year or once a quarter, I think a lot of people would use it, not just for these kinds of cases, but for counseling or for other things that we could use it for. So what we discovered in that conversation was she wasn't aware or didn't remember that their EAP had an anonymous reporting system. And once we called it, it's not just telling people that it's there, it's telling staff what it does, how it works, so that they have a better understanding of it and can call in comfortably to report whatever they need to report. The ability to focus on process changes the game on how you develop policy and procedure. That's how the red ball drills work.